Castles are supposed to be symbols of power, wealth and protection, but some of them hide far darker secrets. Across Europe, ancient fortresses are surrounded by stories of ghosts, curses, mysterious disappearances and unexplained events that continue to puzzle visitors today. So join me as we explore 5 of the most mysterious and haunted castles in Europe. When people think about Dracula, one place immediately comes to mind: Bran Castle in Romania. Sitting high on a rocky cliff in the heart of Transylvania, the castle looks exactly like something from a gothic horror movie. Tall towers, narrow windows, stone walls, and mist-covered mountains all around it. Even before you learn its history, it feels mysterious. But here's where things get interesting. Despite being known worldwide as Dracula's castle, there is actually very little evidence that Vlad the Impaler, the historical figure who inspired Dracula, ever spent much time here. Some historians believe he may have passed through the area or possibly been imprisoned nearby, but Bran Castle was never truly his home. So how did the castle become linked to vampires? The answer begins with Irish author Bram Stoker. In 1897 he published the famous novel Dracula. Stoker never visited Romania, but his description of Dracula's fortress baths are surprisingly resemblance to Bran Castle. Over time, tourists, writers and filmmakers connected the two, and the legend grew larger than reality itself. Yet the castle's real history is fascinating enough without vampires. Built in 1377, Bran Castle originally served as a defensive fortress guarding an important mountain pass between Transylvania and Wallachia. Merchants, soldiers and travelers all passed beneath its walls. Throughout the centuries, it witnessed wars, political struggles and changing empires. But of course, what attracts many visitors today are the darker stories. Local legends speak of strange light appearing around the castle at night. Some visitors claim to hear footsteps in empty corridors or feel as though they are being watched. Others report sudden cold spots in rooms where no drafts exist. While none of these stories have ever been proven, they continue to fuel the castle's mysterious reputation. Adding to the atmosphere is the surrounding region itself. Transylvania has long been associated with folklore involving spirits, witches and supernatural creatures. For centuries, villagers shared stories about creatures that wandered the forest after dark and souls unable to rest. Today, Bran Castle is one of Romania's most visited landmarks. Thousands come each year hoping to experience a piece of the Dracula legend. Whether you're interested in history, architecture or the supernatural, the castle offers something unique. And maybe that's the real mystery of Bran Castle. It's not whether Dracula lived here, it's how a place with so little connection to the famous vampire became the most iconic haunted castle in the world. When people imagine haunted castles, they often think of dark fortresses hidden deep in the remote mountains. But one of Europe's most famous ghost stories comes from a beautiful French castle surrounded by vineyards and a rolling countryside. This is Chateau de Brissac, located in France's Loire Valley. At first glance, it doesn't look threatening at all. In fact, it's often called the tallest castle in France, and its elegant towers and luxury rooms make it look more like a royal palace than a haunted mansion. Yet behind its beautiful appearance lies a story that has terrified visitors for centuries. The castle's most famous resident isn't a nobleman or a king, it's a ghost known as the Green Lady. According to legend, the spirit belongs to Charlotte de Brise, a noblewoman who lived during the 15th century. Charlotte was married to Jacques de Brise, a powerful aristocrat. From the outside, they appeared to have a perfect life. However, rumors began to spread that Charlotte was having a secret affair with another nobleman. One night, Jacques allegedly discovered the relationship. Enraged by betrayal, he reportedly killed both Charlotte and her lover inside the castle. Whether every detail of the story is true remains uncertain. Historians debate parts of the tale, but what happened next became the foundation of one of France's most famous ghost legends. Soon after Charlotte's death, strange reports began to emerge. Servants claimed they heard crying during the night. Others reported seeing a woman wandering through the halls. According to the description, she wore a green dress and had a pale face with hollow, disturbing features. Over time, she became known as the Green Lady. Visitors and castle staff have continued reporting unusual experiences for generations. Some say they hear soft moans coming from empty rooms. Others claim they have seen a female figure standing near windows before suddenly disappearing. Interestingly, the castle owners themselves have openly discussed the legend. Rather than hiding the story, they have embraced it as part of the castle's identity. Of course, there is no scientific evidence that the Green Lady exists. Skeptics suggest that old buildings naturally create strange sounds and shadows. But ghost stories rarely survive for hundreds of years without capturing people's imagination. Today Chateau de Brisac attracts visitors from around the world. Some come to admire its architecture and history, others arrive hoping to catch a glimpse of France's most famous ghost. And who knows, if you find yourself walking through the castle late night, you might just notice a woman in green watching suddenly from the shadows. Imagine standing in front of a medieval castle deep in the Austrian countryside. Thick stone walls rise above the surrounding forest, the mountains loom in the distance, and an eerie silence hangs in the air. It already feels like the setting of a horror story. Welcome to Moosham Castle, one of the darkest and most mysterious castles in Europe. Located in the Salzburg region of Austria, the castle dates back to the 13th century. Over the centuries it served as a residence, an administrative center and a symbol of power. But Moosham Castle is remembered today for something far more disturbing than its architecture. Its halls witnessed some of the most brutal witch trials in Austrian history. During the late 17th century, Europe was gripped by fear of witchcraft. Across the continent, thousands of people were accused of practicing dark magic. Moosham Castle became one of the centers of these persecutions. Between 1675 and 1690, numerous individuals were imprisoned, interrogated, and executed here after being accused of witchcraft. Many of the accusations were based on rumors, superstition, or fear rather than actual evidence. People could be condemned simply because their neighbors distrusted them or because unexplained events needed a scapegoat. The castle's stone walls absorbed countless stories of suffering, and over time many believed those tragic events left something behind. But the witch trials are only part of the castle's evil reputation. Moosham is also connected to one of Austria's strangest werewolf legends. In the early 18th century, farmers in the region began finding livestock mysteriously killed. Panic spread through local villages. Instead of blaming wolves, many residents became convinced that werewolves were responsible. Several poor and homeless people were accused of being shape-shifting creatures. Some were arrested, and the fear continued to grow. While historians now attribute the attacks to ordinary predators, the werewolf stories became permanently linked to the castle. Today, visitors and paranormal enthusiasts report strange experiences inside Moosham Castle. Some claim to hear unexplained footsteps echoing through empty corridors. Others describe sudden drops in temperature or the unsettling feeling that someone is standing just behind them. Of course, there is no proof that ghosts, witches or werewolves haunt the castle. Yet the combination of real historical tragedies and centuries of folklore creates an atmosphere that is difficult to ignore. Unlike many haunted locations where the stories are mostly legend, Moosham Castle's dark reputation is rooted in actual events. Real people suffered here, real fears shaped the lives of entire communities. Perhaps that's what makes the castle so unsettling. The ghosts may be legends, but the history behind them is very real, and when night falls over the Austrian mountains, it's easy to understand why Moosham Castle remains one of Europe's most mysterious places. If there is one castle in Europe that perfectly combines history, mystery and ghost stories, it might be Edinburgh Castle. Standing high above Scotland's capital on top of ancient volcanic rock, the fortress dominates the city skyline. From almost anywhere in Edinburgh, you can look up and see its massive stone walls watching over the streets below. During the day it looks majestic. At night, however, it takes on a much darker character. Edinburgh Castle has existed in some form of nearly 1,000 years. Throughout its long history, it has witnessed battles, sieges, executions, political conspiracies, and countless human tragedies. With so much history packed into one place, it's no surprise that many people consider it one of the most haunted castles in the world. One of the castle's most famous ghost stories involves a mysterious drummer. According to legend, whenever danger threatened Edinburgh, a phantom drummer would appear on the castle walls. Witnesses claimed they could hear the sound of drums echoing through the fortress, even though no drummer could be found. The figure was supposedly seen before major attacks or important events, almost like a supernatural warning. Another famous legend concerns a lone piper. Centuries ago, a network of tunnels was discovered beneath the castle and the city. To explore them, a young bagpiper was sent underground while playing his instrument. The sound of the bagpipes allowed people above ground to track his progress. Everything seems normal at first. Then, suddenly, the music stopped. Search parties entered the tunnels, but found no trace of the piper. According to legend, he simply vanished. Even today, some visitors and locals claim they occasionally hear faint bagpipe music coming from beneath the castle. The castle is also associated with numerous ghostly figures. Guards, tourists, and staff members have reported seeing shadowy silhouettes moving through empty rooms. Others describe sudden cold spots, strange whispers, or the feeling of being watched. In the early 2000s, researchers conducted one of the largest paranormal investigations ever performed in Scotland. Volunteers spent time inside the castle without knowing its ghost stories beforehand. Surprisingly, many reported similar experience in the same locations, including feeling of unease, unexplained touches, and sighting of shadowy figures. Skeptics argue that the castle age, atmosphere, and reputation naturally influence people's perceptions. After all, an ancient fortress filled with dark corridors and centuries of tragic history can easily spark the imagination. Still, Edinburgh Castle remains a place where history and legend seem to blend together. Whether the stories are supernatural or simply products of the human mind, one thing is certain: when the fog rolls across the city and the ancient fortress disappears into the darkness, it's easy to believe that some of its former residents never truly left. Most castles were built for reason. Some protected important trade routes, others defend cities or guarded national borders. But Houska Castle in the Czech Republic presents a mystery that historians still discuss today. Because unlike most medieval castles, it doesn't seem to make much sense. It wasn't built near a major river, it doesn't overlook an important road, it wasn't designed to protect a wealthy city. In fact, some of its defensive features appear to face inward rather than outward. So why was it built? According to one of Europe's most chilling legends, Houska Castle was constructed for a very unusual purpose: to seal a getaway to hell. The story begins long before the castle itself existed. Local villagers spoke of a deep, bottomless pit in the forest. Strange sounds were said to emerge from the darkness below. People claimed to hear screams, cries, and unearthly noises coming from the opening. Even more disturbing were stories of strange creatures. Legends say that half-human, half-animal beings occasionally crawled out of the pit and wandered the surrounding countryside. The terrified villagers believed the hole led directly to the underworld. Eventually, the ruler of the region decided something had to be done. In the 13th century, Houska Castle was built directly over the mysterious opening. According to folklore, the castle's chapel was positioned specifically to cover the pit and prevent evil forces from escaping. One of the most famous stories connected to the castle involves a prisoner sentenced to death. He was offered a pardon if he agreed to be lowered into the pit and report what he saw. The man supposedly accepted, but moments after being lowered into the darkness, he began screaming in terror and begged to be pulled back up. When rescuers finally lifted him out, legend claims his hair had turned completely white and he appeared decades older. Of course, there is no evidence that this event actually occurred, yet the story has survived for centuries. Even today, Houska Castle attracts paranormal investigators from around the world. Visitors report hearing footsteps in empty rooms, strange whispers, and unexplained shadows. Some claim to have seen a large black creature moving through the corridors. Others describe an overwhelming sense of unease near the chapel. Historians offer more practical explanations. The castle likely served administrative and strategic purpose during medieval times. The mysterious pit may have simply been a natural geological formation that inspired local folklore. Still, Houska Castle remains unique. Few places in Europe have a reputation quite like this one. Whether you believe in supernatural forces or not, there's something undeniably unsettling about a castle built directly above a dark hole that people once feared was the entrance to another world. And perhaps that's why Houska Castle continues to fascinate visitors today. Not because we know what lies beneath it, but because we don't. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe if you like this video, and bye bye, see you next time.